Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is an entrepreneur, fitness influencer, podcaster, wife, and mom. Today's guest is Rachel Pastor. Rachel, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
What's up? I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So Rachel, we're going to just jump right into things. Got a little bit of a warm up for you. 4 questions. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? Do you have some sort of maybe like a specific morning routine or ritual that you like to stick to on most mornings?
Yeah, I'm pretty routine in that way. So typically I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. and I set it a little bit early because I leave about 10 to 15 minutes to lay in bed and spend some time meditating and really thinking about my day and giving gratitude and just really putting myself in the right mindset. So that's every single morning. I'd say even on the mornings where I just totally don't want to do it because you don't always want to do that, right?
Right, for sure.
I always make time for that because that always sets my day up for success. So I do that, and then typically I work out right when I wake up. So I'll have a glass of water, 2 shots of apple cider vinegar, and whatever I'm going to drink before I go work out, and then I'm in the gym.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's my morning.
Cool. So in regards to like your working out, is it like CrossFit style stuff? Is it Orange Theory? What does the workouts kind of look like?
So I do a combination of different workouts because I used to be a CrossFit coach.
Okay.
So I love that element. But when I opened my gym, I had left being a CrossFit coach for no particular reason other than when I opened my gym, I wanted to be able to offer people all different types of fitness, where I didn't really feel like CrossFit was for everyone.
Right.
And I wanted to create something that I felt like there was more open to everyone.
Okay,
so that
cool.
In my workouts, I use all different types of functional training, CrossFit, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to touch on like kind of like CrossFit a little bit. Because I know I've dabbled it in a little bit, and I know like especially like for somebody that's like kind of like a type A personality, kind of like a go-getter, it's really easy for us to kind of like fall into that like obsessiveness or maybe even addiction to kind of like high intensity. So just like from your experience, and not necessarily even CrossFit, but just like maybe like physical training in general. Because intensity is important, right? On some level, but I think some of us may take that too far. So how do you work with maybe your clients, or how do you work with people maybe in the past when you're coaching CrossFit to maybe get that elicit that intensity, but then also be able to step in and say, hey, we don't always need intensity. So how do you balance that of like somebody that wants to always be in kind of that dark zone and then maybe saying like, hey, we don't always need to go to that dark place because that's not quote unquote healthy.
That is really interesting that you say that because I myself have been in that place.
Right.
Where I felt like the only time I was getting a good workout was when that it was worth my time. Right. Was when I was pushing to that
For
level.
sure. Yep.
And then over time realizing that that wasn't the best for me in the way that my body was responding and what was happening in myself. So over time, my advice for others really has been to have variety and not to it's not just all about CrossFit. Enjoy a lot of different things. Maybe it be yoga, cycling, CrossFit, but don't just be at that one intensity.
For sure.
Right? There's beauty in all of it. And so that is that's my advice to somebody is be versatile in what you're doing.
Beautiful. Because I mean, the reason why I asked that is because like exercise has been a big part of my life for a very long time, but it's very easy for me to cross over into an addiction with exercise. And obviously that's not healthy, So, and I know there's a lot of people that are probably going to be listening to this where it's like you just said, Rachel, it's like, I don't feel like, the workout is worth it, or I got what I wanted to get out of it if it doesn't meet a certain intensity level. And that's just not the case. That's false. That's an internal lie that we're telling ourselves or a false story or a false narrative that we're creating inside of our mind. Because honestly, I firmly believe that intensity is important, but it's not something that you shouldn't be going full intensity, full out all the time, because that really creates, some unhealthy habits and mindset and things of that nature in somebody's life. Because like you said, you mentioned like yoga, and the aspects of, kind of that mindset, the stretching and just kind of like that, deregulation and stuff like that is just as important as hitting that intensity. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I feel like there's a lot of people, not even in CrossFit, but just in general with exercise, they're going hard every day, and that becomes an issue and it becomes unhealthy. So I'm glad we were able to touch on that right away. So on the second question, Rachel, that I have for you, in regards to our warm up is, and if there's more than one, please feel free to share. But do you have a favorite book or a book that you like to gift often?
Let's see. Well, I just got many times, I just got done reading it again. I love The Four Agreements.
Cool. Yep.
So that is a book that I often will have my clients read, as well as You Are a Badass.
Yep.
It's one of my top ones that I hand off.
Jen Sincero, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's come up. You're probably like the fifth or sixth female guest I've had on that has brought that up. So it's cool.
It's just in one book, it really brings a lot.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. Right now I'm reading Leadership by John Maxwell, which has been really good. I find myself like going back, rewinding it and like writing stuff down. Because it's just, that's really been my focus for this year, was to really grow as a leader. And so I've really been diving into reading and growing in that area.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So I want to touch on the Four Agreements, because that's a book that, as I listen to different people's podcasts, it comes up often. But what's maybe like one or two takeaways from that specific book that has been really valuable for you?
Man, so many things. I think one thing was, I actually was just messaging with somebody about this today. One thing was the change in my mindset of really how we've all come about to think a certain way and think of what is right, to think of what is wrong. Of really how that from the time that we are born, from the minute we're born, how that starts being molded. And for me, that was really eye-opening, in being raised in a very strict Christian home, and just my upbringing, and really thinking about how oftentimes we are set to think, like I said again, how things are right and wrong. And really, are they right and wrong, or is that just the way that you were molded to think? So that's one thing. The other thing is the one thing I've been really working on a ton, and that's don't take things personally. Whatever someone else's opinion or thoughts, that is really their own reality. Right. And I think we all get caught up in that a lot, of being offended or really thinking about whatever somebody else is thinking and how that affects your life. And really just more thinking of, that's really their reality. And to not take that personal. And so that's been a highlight for me and even reading it again, because every time I read it, I get something more out of it. And that was the one thing this last time I read it where I was like, Rachel, that's something you really need to work on right now.
So if you don't mind, I want to touch on a little bit, in regards to kind of like, you talked about these conditioned beliefs that begin from birth, because this is something, as I've podcasted with, over 60 people now, it's something that comes up often, and it's something that I've really been awakened to and enlightened to probably, within this last 6 months to a year. So, and you talked about growing up in a conservative Christian home. So maybe outside of like the Christianity part of it, what's maybe another kind of conditioned belief that you have realized was inside of you that you've had to really work through to maybe break free from?
Wow. Oh, I think really in thinking, one thing that's really been brought up a lot lately, and I think it's because I think it is a hot topic in, how people are thinking about sexuality.
Yeah, yeah.
In how we think about men, women, the difference of the roles.
Yeah.
I think that has been one thing for me. There's been many, but I will say that is one thing that has been a complete mind shift in the way that I was raised to think.
Right, right.
And I also think, again, it's one thing that is on a lot of people's minds right now.
For sure. And especially, in Colorado, because in Colorado there's it's a different culture out here. Like I grew up in the Midwest and things, and I also grew up in a conservative Christian home, and a lot of the biblical principles and things of that nature that are instilled in us from birth. There's a lot of things that are biblical, but then there's a lot of times where I've found that people will take a part of scripture or something like that, and they'll kind of like mold it and twist it and kind of like share it in regards to the message that they kind of want to put out there. So there's a lot to sift through and all that, but there are a lot of, in regards to religion, Rachel, there's a lot of conditioning that goes on, and I think it's really important for us to whatever religion you are born into or whatever, it's like, and if you want to continue to follow that, it's like, well, like in regards to Christianity, there's the Bible, and the Bible is God's word. So it's like, if you want to find out who God is, if you really want to find out what, Christianity is all about, let's read the Bible. Let's stick to, the Bible, as opposed to, repeating or falling into what some individual, some fallen human being is saying. And so, in regards to like, me growing up in, conservative Christianity and growing up in the Midwest, being out here in Colorado, it's a different culture, especially when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to, the gay community and things like that. So, as individuals, like we have to be understanding of all kinds of different people. But then I think also it's like what, because we were talking before we turned on the podcast, is like, I was talking about just having that foundation in our lives. You know what I mean? It's like, what is my foundation? Like, what is your foundation? Because I also see a lot of people where it's like, they're like wishy-washy. They don't really have that foundation. And it's like, well, everybody in Colorado is kind of moving in this direction in regards to this topic. So I guess I'm out here, so I'm going to kind of move in that direction. It's like, well, just because everybody else is moving in that direction, maybe the whole state, is moving in that direction, that doesn't mean I have to. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's just so valuable and so important for us and for the listeners as you listen to this, like, what do we stand for? Like, what do we believe in? And always being open to learn new things. So that's just that whole conditioning that goes on from birth it's so fascinating to me. You know what I mean, Rachel? It's like so fascinating because it's like, why do I say what I say? Why do I act, the way that I act? Why do I do what I do?
Yeah.
And as we look back to our past, it's like, a lot of who we are today is from our past, from the adults that were in our lives when we were growing up, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just like, man, it's so fascinating. But we'll move on from that, because that could be like a whole 2-hour podcast
it really,
for me.
really
So
could.
So all right. So is there a favorite quote or mantra? And again, if there's more than one, feel free to share. But is there a favorite quote or mantra that you really hold on to in your life?
I have multiple, but one that came to mind is, you don't inherit your attitude, you choose your attitude.
Cool.
And my fellow podcaster, Bruce Pitcher, he always says that, and I love it. I think it says so much in what choices we have.
Right.
And almost into what we were just talking about. You choose.
Absolutely.
And you choose your attitude. So I love that one.
Cool. All right. So favorite or most listened to podcast, and if there's more than one, feel free to share. And then also please share your own personal podcast that you have.
Oh, I like a few. It depends on what mood I'm in. So right now I've been listening to a lot of like John Maxwell because it's all around the leadership. So I really love that. I also like Ed Milet. I think he interviews great people and topics. So I really, really enjoy that. Our podcast is called Pumped on Life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And you guys just launched that pretty recently, didn't you?
Yeah,
I saw on your Instagram.
Recently.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And they're only from 10 to 20 minutes long.
Cool.
Yeah. They're just short daily things.
Okay.
That you work on.
So is it just, it's just kind of like little daily like nuggets for kind of like motivation, encouragement for people?
Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So before we kind of dig into kind of like your background and stuff, I do want to touch on kind of the leadership thing, because you said that's something coming into 2019 you really wanted to focus on in your personal life, and you've mentioned John Maxwell a couple times now. So what in regards to leadership, coming into the year, did you want to focus on? And then also from your perspective and in your life, Rachel, what does leadership look like?
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing to me is that in the lessons that I've learned, I always thought that a great leader was just born.
Okay.
And I thought that certain people were just leaders and other people weren't.
Right.
And what I came to learn through falling on my face is that's not true. I always just thought I was a leader.
Right.
And when I went to go lead a team, what I learned is it's so much more than that, and so much more of it is learned.
Right.
And so after learning a lot of hard lessons in 2018 and losing my team and having to start completely over by myself and building a new team, I said, going into this next year, I'm going to figure out what the heck it means to be a leader and what that really looks like. And I really had not done anything to that point to figure that out, because I thought it just happened. So I really started looking into who are the great leaders, what qualities did they have, and then also what are, podcasts, books, like what do I need to do? And that was my biggest business goal and life goal for this year. Because I knew if I could figure this out, it would propel so many other things in my life forward.
Right.
And so what I've learned thus far, and I'm still diving deep into this, is really the qualities of a leader, in that a leader is, and I always see the mistakes that I made along the way. A leader is helping other people like shine bright in their best qualities, and helping propel them forward. It's not you being the person at the front and everybody's kind of following behind you. Like, you're behind them, pushing them forward and in helping them be amazing.
Right.
And so that has been one thing. The other thing has been pulling completely away from saying I used to talk a lot about, like, in any of my posts, I'd be like, my team, my this, instead of like the team.
Right.
Our project, it was more about me. And in the time, I never ever saw anything wrong with that.
Right.
Even though I am mentored by some great leaders and some very honest ones, and when I asked for their opinion, that was very interesting that was brought to light to me.
Right.
Is they said, Rachel, have you ever thought about this? And when they said it, in the moment, I was like, just kind of taken back.
Yeah,
almost
for sure.
Offended.
Yeah, we all are. Yeah, for sure.
But the more and more I thought about it, I was like, wow, and the more things I've listened to of how true that is. And though it may seem simple, it's such a shift in your mind in the way that you work with people and the way that you see the team.
Right.
And you see your role within the team. Right. and the way that you make people in your team, in the team, feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So those are just some things, but.
So in regards to like leadership, Rachel, you know, what is like, you know, being a servant or having that service heart, how does that tie into leadership?
Having a service heart.
Yeah, well, just having that perspective of like I'm a servant. I'm here to serve my team. I'm here to serve you know the people that we're trying to reach. Having that heart of service. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think that's part of what makes a great leader.
Right, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think John Maxwell talks about that constantly.
Right. Yep.
And so I think you said it right there.
Okay, cool. So, and I know, I'm sure you're probably familiar with Jocko Willink.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I know he says there are no bad teams, there's just bad leaders. And, you know, I've read, you know, a couple of his books and stuff. Now, that was something for me, just kind of that example that he gives in one of his books in regards to kind of their training for Navy SEALs or whatever. But it's just like there are no bad teams, there's bad leaders. And it's like that was a statement that I had to kind of chew on in my mind for a while. You know what I mean? Because like I've always been, you know, thought of myself as some sort of type of some type of leader or whatever. But then I've also been like, well, you know, kind of screw everybody if things aren't going the way I want them to go. Like I'm just going to do it on my own.
Yeah.
That's not true leadership.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like you said, it's encouraging your team to move in a certain direction and kind of being that servant. So very cool. So Rachel, let's if you don't mind, let's kind of just, I want to touch on a little bit kind of like your upbringing, kind of like where did you grow up? What was kind of the earlier years like for you, Rachel? Were you involved in sports, extracurricular activities? You know, just kind of what did things look like in your younger years?
Yeah, so I'm born in Fort Collins. I went to the same high school that my parents went to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we we're third generation here. I married my husband. He's fifth generation Fort Collins.
Okay,
so.
sweet.
But we've lived other places in California, Utah. My mom has been married a couple times.
Okay.
And I have a sister and a half brother.
Okay, cool.
So my brother's 15 years younger. He has a different dad.
Okay.
And me and my sister have the same dad. We're very close.
So
let's see, 14 years old, my mom married my brother's dad.
Okay.
And during that time, it was a big shift for our family. It was a shift in how somebody, you know, thought, and then coming into this household and bringing that together. And what was really brought is that in that time, my sister and I both had been in club sports all growing up.
Right.
And we, you know, played volleyball. I was competitive in volleyball, and I loved it. And I had those friendships and those, you know, that surrounding, and that's really what I woke up to do every day, and I loved it. Well, in coming into this marriage and in combining, you know, the family.
Yeah.
My stepdad's thought really was that was a huge waste of money. And so ended up pulling us out of that. And in that time, I had really no relationship with my dad. My dad was an alcoholic and really wasn't around. So he pulled us out of all the sports. And in that time, that's when really everything changed for me. Because I didn't have those friendships. I didn't have that thing to look forward to anymore. So when I went to go looking for it, and at that time my mom was starting a new, you know, life with somebody.
For sure, yeah.
So I went out seeking to find relationships, to find, you know, this joy that I found in sports and in my relationship with my family. I wasn't feeling that anymore. And where I found it is I found it in a relationship that I ended up being in for 5 years, and a heroin addiction.
Yeah.
So I was a heroin addict from the time that I was 15 till the time I was 20. And that, when you are living in that life, you know, I felt like I had found what I was looking for. And my whole life became about that and about feeding that addiction.
Right.
And so I, in turn, had lost all my friends, all my family.
Yeah.
And I still had this relationship, and we just lived in the addiction together. when I was 20, I ended up being pregnant, living out of my car, and my boyfriend passed away from a heroin overdose. And for me, that was the really pivotal moment in my life of really deciding, it was really death or change, because I really in that moment was like, I just want to end my life, or I need something different. And I think back to this moment all the time. I remember standing there in this kitchen praying to a God that I didn't even know if I believed in, and asking him to, if you're real, if you're up there, if you're here, please save me.
Right.
And or just end this for me. I just want this to be over.
For sure.
And from that moment on, there's certain things that happen in life that are just unexplainable.
Yep.
And that really is, I always say, I ended up moving to Hawaii. The car that we sold it for a plane ticket to get over there.
Okay.
And I really say that I flew on angel's wings over there, because from that moment forward, the transformation began.
Right.
And when I stepped off that plane, I decided I was never going to use again. I wasn't going to, I wasn't even going to go look for a methadone clinic. I wasn't going to do anything. It was done. And so I did. I got off there, and, people often ask, well, how did you actually do it?
Right.
And the truth is that I don't believe I did it on my own.
Right.
I really don't. And also that I made the decision that it wasn't like maybe I will. It was like, this is it. This is literally, I want to die, or I need to do this.
Yeah.
And so it was a very, very painful time. It was so painful. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea how to talk to people. I had no idea how to be a real person living life, going to work.
Right.
I didn't have any of those skills. I didn't. I felt extremely lost in everything of life.
Right.
And so it was just waking up every single morning and doing one thing to try to learn life again. And so as I began to do that, it was about a year of just really, I would get up and go to this job just so I could pay the rent. But outside of that, it really was just getting out of bed each day, because my body was so completely destroyed, not just from the heroin use. Actually, the biggest destroyer on my body was the methadone. Methadone gets into your bones, and it to release it from your body, it takes a very long period of time, especially the longer that you've used it. And it is actually very painful. So going through that time and just recovering in that way, I also gained a ton of weight. And that's where my food addiction started. Because I had no coping mechanisms outside of reaching for drugs. So I reached for a drug that is readily available to anybody, and it's called food.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I during that time started to feel my pain eating and binging, and so, but that I'll talk about later on. But right now, my love for fitness opened up when a woman I was working with asked me if I wanted to go to 24-hour fitness and walk on the treadmill. She was my boss, and I said, well, yeah, I'd love to. At that point, I honestly just wanted any interaction with anybody.
Right, yeah.
So we went and walked on the treadmill, and she invited me to go back again, and I was like, yeah, sure. So the more and more we went back, we would try new things, and what I began to notice when I left there is I was feeling something that I had never... that I don't remember the last time I had felt it. And it's what I had been searching for all along. It was the joy. I was starting to feel joy again. I was starting to feel happiness and finding something that I enjoyed to do, and what that made my body feel like. And there were so many elements to it, but it was like every time I left there, how I felt with it. It was also the interaction with this person and having a healthy conversation, doing something healthy together. And that, again, was not a relationship that I had had in so long.
Right.
And I was on the search to find from the age that I started using drugs, what I was on the search for this whole entire time is I would see the light in other people, and all I wanted was to feel that light and have that light myself. And I was beginning to find that. So also creating, you know, I started to go back to church and just kind of like, I still didn't know if I believed that at that moment.
Right.
I just was searching. I'm just searching. So it was a couple of years in that and just rebuilding my life. My grandma had asked if I would move back to Colorado. My grandpa had passed away. And I had lived in Hawaii for a few years. But I really felt like that was my opening. No matter how scared I was to go do that, it was time.
Right.
It was time. So I came back, and I knew once I got here, I knew because my love had already been being built in fitness. And I knew I wanted to dive deeper into this, and I wanted to work in this world.
Right.
And so once I got here, it was my mission to do whatever it took to be able to work in the health and fitness industry. Whether it was going to be that I worked at the front desk at 24-Hour Fitness, I didn't care. I just wanted to work in this world. And so that is really where my mission began, and doors began to open more and deeper into this passion of helping people feel this joy of what health and fitness brings to their lives in whichever way they need it.
Right.
You know, so I went back to school. I asked, different people to be my mentors and follow them around. What are they doing? And it just grew and grew and grew from there.
So I want to take a step back in regards to that 5-year period when you were in your addiction, and you said heroin. Is that correct? So present day for you, Rachel, what is, as you would look back on that time frame of your life and the darkness that you were experiencing and living in, what's maybe a thing or two that you kind of hold on to this day? Maybe not a life lesson, but something that you kind of look back at Rachel at that time frame and just say, maybe it encourages you to make it through something you're going through currently, or helps you to overcome. What's maybe a thing or two that you took away from that time frame?
From being actually in the addiction?
Yeah, being in that darkness, being in that, with that addiction, and just everything that you were experiencing at that time of your life.
Well, one thing that I took away that I didn't really see till later on was something that really helps me work well with other people. And that's that a lot of all of the things that I was doing, and there were some horrible things that I was doing.
For sure.
Were out of the pain I was feeling inside.
Yeah.
And thinking about in those moments of like, why would I have made that choice to do that horrible thing? And that was a huge lesson for me, is a lot of the time we look at people and whatever decisions that they've made, or whatever they're doing or the action, it's just like, wow, how could they do that? Like, and judging them for it. And, instead of looking at it a different way of like, man, they must really be hurting, and I was hurting so bad. And it was everything I did was a cry for help.
Right. Yep.
And so that, without a doubt, was one of my biggest takeaways of that time in my life. The other, again, something I think that plays right off of that is I think also an addiction. I think it's really, it was good for me to be in that, to understand that when somebody is dealing with addiction and, alcoholism, anything.
Right.
How that addiction begins to control the choices that they're making,
Yeah.
And what that really looks like. I think that one thing that we talked about before the podcast started, you talked about, and I loved when you said this, about going and actually experiencing and being in something to really understand it. And when you said that, I was like, oh my God, that could not be more the truth.
Right.
You know,
right.
it's hard to understand unless you've actually been in
For
it
sure.
and experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this, looking back, has helped me, and all those lessons learned, be able to help people and see people in the most beautiful way.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, you also talked about, wanting the light in your life that you saw in other people.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of do you refer to when you were saying, or when you said you wanted that light that you saw in other people? Was it love? Was it joy? What is that light for you?
Mm-hmm. Definitely love, definitely
Mm-hmm.
joy, peace.
Yeah, peace. Yeah.
I have always, from the time that I can remember, had really bad anxiety.
Yep.
And being that anxious all the time, like I would see people laugh and just feel like seem peaceful, where I always felt like I was on the edge.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and anybody that's lived with anxiety, they know how that feels.
Yep.
You know, and it often is a dark place when you're in it, and you can't see outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it was the peace. It was love. It was happiness. It was laughter.
Mm.
I felt like all I saw was darkness. All I saw was I couldn't see anything good in life.
Right. Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah. So that's really what I mean by the light.
Cool. So and you touched on this too, and I would like you just to expound a little bit more, but like just the value and the importance of human connection and community, in regards to us as like just being human beings. Like, so like I think that's probably something else too, in regards to maybe that light that you were craving, was like maybe that a genuine human connection outside of like the relationship with the guy you're with the addiction. So how valuable and how important is it for us human beings to pursue and to seek community and other connections with human beings?
Oh, that was part of my life change and into everything that's part of my mission and bringing community together.
Right. Yeah.
Because that is a part of being human. It's needing and wanting that connection, and how important it is to have healthy connection with other people.
Right.
And oftentimes we can get in relationships because we all crave connection.
Absolutely.
And so, just like the relationships that I got into, if we're not looking and we're not seeking out those healthy relationships, oftentimes whatever is haunting us or bothering us or really deep within us is whoever we are, we're going to attract.
Yep.
Right?
100%.
And so really looking at that when you're looking at building those relationships and that community, because we all need it. But the people that you are connecting with and the community that you are creating, and how it does actually have a true effect on your health and your well-being and the life that you're living.
Right. So how does somebody that's listening to this, Rachel, how would they, if they don't have that community in their life, if they're really craving that human connection, which again you stated it very well, we all crave that, whether we want to admit it or not. But how would somebody take a step to create a healthy community or healthy relationships in their life? What's maybe one or two steps they could take right now to start pursuing that?
So, interestingly enough, this is funny because I just did a post on this today. I wrote the 6 top things to create amazing relationships.
Yeah, okay.
And
I didn't see that post, by the way.
I assume
it's ironic.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool.
Uh-huh. So my first one was that to write down what are the types of friendships that you want.
Beautiful.
What connection, what do you want to bring to a friendship, and what do you want that friend to bring to the friendship? Like, what do you want to create there? Almost a list of creating like what you want in the perfect partner. Right?
I've done it. It's powerful stuff.
It is. What do you want in that friendship?
Right, for sure. Yeah.
And so that's one. 2 is putting that list in front of you at all times, like hang it up where you can see it. Be connected to it. Don't just write it and put it away, and think about it. The third one is that I talked about that I am a true believer that just like anything in life, that you can create this in your life.
Absolutely.
And so it's about, so that was really putting that list out in front of you. The other one was joining, stepping out of your comfort zone, joining groups, joining events, joining and reaching out to people who, have similar interests, who you would enjoy to be around. Go to these events, ask to join these groups, reach out to somebody, even up there on Instagram, and ask if they'll meet you for a cup of coffee.
Right.
And start to build those relationships. If you do not have that, which I hear that all the time, right? People are like, that's great, but I have none of that around me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, then create it.
For sure.
Create a group, create an event where you'll invite these people. If it's around things that you love, that around your beliefs, around the things that bring you joy, guess who will come to those events? People who also enjoy those things.
100%.
So that was the other one. The other one was that you showing gratitude for your friendships, and constantly filling them up with love, and showing gratitude and nurturing the friendships that you have. And then the last one was trust that if you put this all out there, that it will come.
Right.
You just have to give it time, and it will.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So do you believe, Rachel, that in order for a human being to reach their full potential, they have to pursue stepping outside of their comfort zone on a regular basis?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So just expound a little bit from your perspective of why that's necessary, if you don't mind.
Well, if you're not stepping out of your comfort zone, I'm a true believer that you're not continually growing. I
100%.
feel like that's where growth happens. So it that could be, and that's different for everybody.
Absolutely.
No matter where you're at. So what may be out of my comfort zone right now is maybe not where it's out of your comfort zone, but whatever it is for you, stepping outside of that each day, and whatever that may look like for you.
So what is what for people that maybe don't understand the whole comfort zone thing? How do you determine what is uncomfortable for you as an individual, or how would you, as you're teaching somebody or coaching somebody, how would you help them to find what is uncomfortable for them so that they can step outside of that comfort zone and pursue the uncomfortable?
So it's looking at what you're doing every single day in your daily routine, and what your goals are and what you want in your life.
Right.
Okay. So if you're continually waking up and doing the same things over and over and over, that's your comfort zone, and that's why you're continually doing the same things over and over. So if it's, one of your goals is that you want to get a certain amount of workouts in a week, okay? And every morning you're like, okay, I'm gonna when you go to bed, you've been waking up at 8 a.m., you get dressed, you go to work, but you've been trying to work out before that. It's setting your alarm at 5:30, okay, and getting up and getting out of bed and going to do that workout. Like, that's outside your comfort zone. It's different than what you were doing. It doesn't have to be that you're going skydiving or cliff jumping. It's like, a lot of the time people think that when they're in your comfort zone.
Extreme, and right?
They think extreme.
Yeah.
It could be down to just changing what you're eating every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And trying new things, or stepping out and taking an hour out of your Sunday to meal prep for the week. Like, if you haven't been doing that, it's going to feel uncomfortable when you're doing it, because you're not used to doing it. You're going to feel like you don't have time for it. Why am I doing this? But you're going to push yourself to do it.
Yeah, it's good. And I think too, kind of going back to what we were talking about in regards to community, a lot of people don't have a community around them because they, it's hard for them to communicate face to face, right? We're living in this generation where everything's the phone and the computer and all this stuff. So it's like stepping outside of your comfort zone. It's like maybe you walk up to a stranger in the grocery store and just introduce yourself or something. You know what I mean? I think that would be, something uncomfortable for a lot of people, in regards to that human connection and communication. So cool. So let's, I want to I want to get up to kind of present day, Rachel. So, you talked about you started kind of going, I believe, to a 24-hour fitness with a friend, walking on the treadmill, really started to get interested in fitness. So how did kind of like, the whole fitness thing really take off for you personally in regards to kind of like business wise and things like that?
So repeat the last part of that question.
So no, you're fine. So how did we kind of left off kind of in your own personal story.
Yeah.
You're walking on the treadmill with a friend. At 24-hour fitness, started kind of getting involved in fitness, enjoying fitness.
Yeah.
How did you kind of get into kind of like the fitness community in the sense of maybe making a living from it, coaching, and really diving deep into it?
Yeah. So I first started out in just in group fitness.
Okay, cool.
So I really like indoor cycling. That was the first thing actually that like when I went, walking on the treadmill and all that was great.
Yeah.
But the time I tried my first group fitness class, mind blowing.
Sweet.
I was like,
yeah.
I love the energy. People feeding
Yeah,
off each
yeah.
other. It's so awesome. So group cycling, I auditioned at 24-hour fitness.
Okay.
I was horrible. I didn't make it the first 2 times. They were like, sorry, no way.
Come back again, right?
Come back in.
Yeah.
But I was determined, and I knew I wanted to do this. And I remember the first time putting on that microphone and in the audition room, and every, I couldn't even like make a sentence come out because I was so nervous.
Right,
and I just
right.
felt like I wanted to throw up. So I just kept going back. I kept practicing over and over. And once I finally got accepted into that, and I became an instructor, that really was like, I was like, oh, I can do this, And so again, I was already going back to school and working on, how do you become a personal trainer? What does that really look like? I started working around other personal trainers, got my personal trainer certification, started to work as a personal trainer while I was teaching a ton of other group fitness classes. Because in the meantime, I had gotten certified in it.
Yeah.
So then started working as a personal trainer. I grew into, I worked at different gyms around town. Then I opened my own little gym and we small group training, personal training.
Yeah.
Loved it, and worked in CrossFit while I'm doing all this. And now that's been over a decade that I started doing that. Well, what I really was learning along the way, and it really started to grow deeper in my heart in the past couple of years, is that I can give somebody a fitness and nutrition plan any day.
Right.
You know? That's great. I can do that. I can count out 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, But where the real magic happens, and I know this from my own life, is in the mental and emotional transformation. In that if you give somebody a fitness and nutrition plan, but they are so broken in other areas of their life, why are they choosing to binge eat, and why do they weigh 300 pounds or
right.
It's not just because they ate too much. There are things that happen along the way.
Absolutely.
And so to create true change, I knew that I had to be involved in something that was everything. That was, yes, nutrition and fitness, yes, but mental and emotional transformation. So in that time, a door opened to me. I met Chris and Heidi Pell, and Chris is they're from Extreme Weight Loss Edition on ABC.
Yeah.
And I connected with them right away. When I met them, I told them my story. I don't know why I told them my story. Like, there's all these trainers sitting in the room with them, and they're all going around, and everybody's just talking about. And all of a sudden, there's me, talking about being a heroin addict. And I don't, but I think everything really happens for a reason.
Absolutely, it does.
And it completely connected with Chris Pell, who has, had an addiction. And from that moment, like, by the end of the day, I had Heidi's cell phone number, and we're texting. And the next day, when I went back to work with them, I was telling my husband on the way up, I said, these guys need a coaching program. They didn't at that time they didn't have a coaching program. So I went up to Heidi and I said, you know what, have you guys ever thought about doing coaching? Like, the show is done now. Like, how do you bring that amazingness to so many other people?
Right.
Well, in this time, they're just working on building this app. And, she said, that is on our mind. We're just so busy building the Transform app. And I said, yeah, totally understand. She said, when we're ready, I'll reach out to you. So she sure enough did. She reached out to me and she said, hey, we're ready to go on the coaching program. And I knew what that was going to be like, because I know Chris and Heidi, everything behind them, which maybe a lot of people don't realize this, but if you do your research on them, they don't help people lose 200 pounds in a year by giving them fitness and nutrition plans.
Right.
They help people lose 200 pounds in a year by changing their mindset, by helping them create integrity.
Right.
And so one of the biggest things that our whole entire program that we work with is building integrity. And Chris Pell is known for that. He's known for walking in the room, and there's all these people that want to be on their show, and they're sitting there, and he'll walk in and tell them that the one thing that they don't have is integrity. And Bruce, who I work with, he often talks about, like, in that moment he wanted to punch Chris in the face. He was like, how do you dare tell me I don't have integrity?
For sure.
But when we really, really think about it, it really is, so many people do not have integrity for themselves. They may have integrity, but they don't have integrity for themselves.
Right,
and how they don't have integrity is how many people out there go to bed at night thinking, feeling bad, feeling guilty that they didn't do what they said they were going to do that day. And they say, you know what, in the morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to be a good friend, all these things. They wake up in the morning and they do the exact same things that they did yesterday, and they break their promise to themselves over and over again. And so it really is about creating that integrity. And so in this program, we're life coaches, and we help people every single week. We have, life lessons, and in those life lessons, we get on, it's live video. We talk about a new lesson every single week. We have people not just listen to the life lessons, because here's the thing, we can listen to something all day long.
Right.
It's implementing the work.
Absolutely.
That's where the magic happens. And so we ask them to put these life lessons into play. And so we work on those. So while we're working on this life transformation and working on, building and helping people find their why, the why are you doing this? And the why of why they would do anything in life, and helping them create that. Yeah, along the way, we do have an app, and, we give them workouts. We give them nutrition.
Yeah.
But the program is so successful because of the whole entire mental, emotional, physical transformation, which is the whole entire thing of along the way. I've realized that has been missing from what I really want to bring into the whole picture. So
beautiful. All right, cool. So in regards to kind of like so let's go in this direction.
Yeah.
How important, because social media gets a really bad rap with a lot of people, but I find social media to be very powerful, and that's the reason why we're sitting right here right now having this conversation is through Instagram. So how do you look at social media? How do you use social media to get your message out there to the masses?
Well, I just look at social media. You can use it any way you want to,
For
right?
sure,
So
100%, yeah.
My goal, and when I'm putting stuff out there, is to put stuff out there that's a part of my mission, that's going to help uplift other people. That's going to in some way bring them light in whatever they maybe need to hear.
Right. Now, how valuable is in that social media and the way that you choose to use it? How important and valuable is that authenticity and allowing people to see a little bit kind of behind the scenes of what's going on in your personal life?
Oh, for me personally, and as a coach and being able to connect with people, it's everything.
Yeah, right.
Because if I work with somebody or, creating connection with people, if they don't feel that you can understand or where they're coming from, or you can, feel that connection in the highs and lows in life that we all experience.
Right.
They're not going to feel connected to you. And the only way to bring that to light is to be authentic in what you're actually going through.
Right. So I wanna touch on just quickly again, kind of like, because you're talking about the Transform app with Chris and Heidi Powell and talking about kind of like that the mindset. So let's just say there's somebody that comes to you, Rachel, and they know that they need to just change. There's a lot of things that they need to change. What's kind of like the step, or what's that initial process of helping people to realize that it's more than like the food they're eating or not eating, it's more than the exercise that they're doing or not doing? How do you get people to understand the importance of their mindset and the thoughts that they're having every day?
Well, I think that's one, like in our assessment call. So we always do the assessment call when we first start working with somebody. It's really evaluating of where they are in their life of accepting responsibility.
Okay.
And so that's one thing that I wanted to bring back, because you asked me of what was some of my lessons learned in that time of being in a heroin addiction. And that actually that was the biggest thing actually that I learned, was that the whole entire time I felt like I was a victim. I felt like, it was my parents' fault that I, used drugs, that it was my mom's, the fact that she got in a marriage, and that my stepdad, took me out of sports. But what I really realized is that at the whole entire time, I was responsible for every decision that I made along the way. And so it's evaluating where somebody is with that. Have they taken responsibility for where they've gotten to this point in their life? And then talking to them about that, and then also digging deep into like, what is their why? And really finding, really what is their why. And that will help you also understand of why they decided to join this program, and really what you need to do in helping them in the work of creating that change. Both of these things, taking responsibility, finding your why. And then also talking about the integrity piece of, how they feel about their own integrity in their life. So it's all of these elements, and talking to them about it, and everybody's at a different place when they come. So for some people, they'll be right up there where they're taking all full responsibility. They're in it. They wanted to join, and they're ready to go. And they already know that there are some issues going on, and they want to figure out how to make it change. Then there's the other people that you'll start to work with, and it's a longer road. So some of those people, it's taken, it'll take 6 months before you even get them to the point of where they're actually to see any type of change, because you're working with them so along the way to finding a place of taking responsibility and realizing that the integrity has been lost.
Cool. So I like to give my guests that that are married and that have a family an opportunity to kind of speak on that, because that's a very important aspect of life, and a very important part of people's individual lives. So you have a husband, you have 2 daughters, right? I think I met them when I came in. So what, if you don't mind sharing, what is kind of like the importance for you personally as a woman, as a businesswoman, as an entrepreneur? What's the importance of having that soulmate, or having that intimate relationship in your life with your husband? And then just also maybe just share a little bit of kind of like what your kids have brought into your life.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you that for me is a very deep question, because it truly, for me, I don't have a lot of problem working. I don't have a lot of problem digging deep into my dreams and making them happen. The place that I struggle with my own integrity is actually within my home life, in my family. So my husband is so incredibly supportive. He has never once, he all along the way is cheering me on. I want to do something. All right, Rach, let's go. He has been incredibly supportive, and I believe without a doubt that has been, why and how I've been able to get to the place that I have. So that that I know is important, and I feel very blessed in that, you know, we've had that relationship.
Right.
But because I am so focused on my why and my dreams to you know, impact people in the masses and do all these things, that's where I really talk about alignment. You know, and oftentimes I talk to moms all the time, and they're like, I'm trying to create this balance, and I'm like, you know, in my experience, there is no such thing as balance.
Amen.
It's alignment.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to find my alignment in the time that I spend with my family.
Right.
And so that's something that I'm working on really a lot right now, is, you know, I think it's silly ever to say like, but I love my kids, you know, because if you have kids, you know that you love.
For sure.
them.
Yeah.
I think it's more for me right now of figuring out how to completely disconnect from all these other things that I'm doing and give my kids and my family, my husband, my complete attention and really feed into them, and like and give everything that I am giving over here, in being able to, for in alignment, like for a short amount of time or whatever it needs, to like pour that also into my family.
Right.
So I'd love some advice from other people. I feel like I really am trying to figure that out right now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a constant discipline for me.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, right now, my power promise, my integrity goal right now is to completely put away my phone and all my work, and completely dive into giving my kids and my husband all of me, you know?
Right.
And so I'm really working on that. My kids are so incredible in that they are so forgiving, you know, and all the times and all the time that I spend into working, like, it doesn't matter. They show me constant love. And that's been a great gift to me, and also to me in learning how I also need to love them. Right. So I don't know. That's probably not the answer that that for me, I was like, if he asked that, I'm like, that honestly, none of us are perfect. We are all absolutely not perfectly imperfect. Right. And I will say that. So that's the part of my life I'm really struggling
and I appreciate you, Rachel, sharing that. And that's really, you know, what I want to get out of this podcast in regards to providing a platform to my guests to share their stories, that nobody's got it all figured out. None of us is perfect. And no matter what we see on social media and Instagram and all this stuff that's out there, it's like we all have a behind the scenes, and we all have things that we're working through. And that is the power, I believe, in the written word and the spoken word, and us sharing our stories with the world, is that we all have a story to share. And as we share our story, no matter how famous or not famous we are, no matter how much money we have or we don't have, whatever, as we share our story, one person could be listening to this and they're like, I'm going through that right now with her, or I've been through that, and our stories can positively impact other people. So I appreciate you being transparent and authentic and just saying, hey, this is kind of where I'm at right now with that, you know. So thank you very much. So we've been going over an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time, so I want to finish things up. I really want to touch on the fitness festival events that you put on up here in Fort Collins, because one, it's cool. Second of all, it's coming up next month, I believe. So please just explain to myself and the listeners, Rachel, what the fitness festival events are, and then just share the dates and things like that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so the Fitness Festival is, it was created, so last year was the very first year.
Okay, cool.
And the whole vision behind the Fitness Festival is to bring the joy of health and fitness to people's lives.
Cool,
okay?
Cool, yeah.
But what that means is that no matter how you practice fitness, no matter how you practice health, wellness, no matter how, if you go boxing, yoga, CrossFit, you know, cycling, or if you get acupuncture, chiropractic, you know, you do like take CBD or, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
It's about coming together and celebrating what taking care of yourself what that brings to your life, right? And it's also about experiencing new things. So this one-day event is about a celebration of health and fitness. It is this year we've grown even from our last year. Our first year we brought 3,000 people. Our goal is to double that number this second year. You're going to come into this event. It's kind of like an a la carte experience.
Okay.
So it kicks off with the festival 5K with Orange Theory.
Okay.
So we have a 5K, then we'll head to the stage, or you can head to one of our 80 health and wellness experiences. And the reason I say experiences, and we don't call them vendors, is because you're actually not allowed to be a vendor at this event if you're just handing out papers and information.
Cool.
It's about letting people actually experience what you have to offer. And so we have all of our health and wellness experience. We have our stage. We have 7 influential instructors coming in. Sean T, the creator of Insanity, is one of our headliners this year. And then people flying. Keith is flying in from California. He's a former NFL player teaching yoga.
Sweet.
Love it. So you can do that. We have a huge kids zone. The kids zone is an event inside the event. It's about, we have kids yoga classes, kids fitness classes. We have obstacle areas. We'll have health and wellness experiences for kids. We'll have a filled day. We'll have, then we'll have bounce houses and face paint and all that. But it's also letting kids experience health and fitness.
Absolutely.
And so we have that. We have our the festival games is going on. You would need to sign up for that ahead of time.
Okay.
But it's my big vision with the festival games is, there's all these CrossFit competitions.
Yep.
Well, I wanted a competition where anybody felt like they could come and participate.
Right.
And even though, I know that's the thought around the CrossFit competition anyway. But it's also a very intimidating thing. And if you're not involved in CrossFit, you don't really feel welcome to join it.
Yeah.
So the festival games is really about if you do Orange Theory, if you do boxing, if you do any, come and test your fitness. It's open to anybody.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so we have endurance, strength, and a combination of endurance and strength in that. And then, so coming into the festival, anybody for a general admission ticket is $10.
Okay.
And you can come in. You can come in, experience all the health and wellness experience, as well as our food and beer area, because Fort Collins, if it's not beer and fitness, that's what everybody's into. And then the kids zone, kids 12 and under with general admission are free.
Okay, perfect.
And then we have a full experience ticket, which is you can do the 5K, all the stage workouts. You get a cool swag bag, a little more is involved in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's $35.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, and then it's on Saturday, September 21st.
September 21st.
In Fort Collins, correct?
Fort Collins.
Okay.
We're shutting downtown.
Beautiful. All right, so two questions here, and we're gonna wrap it up. What the first question I have is, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I impacted the masses with transformation in transforming people's lives.
Perfect. So the final question that I have for you, Rachel, is what sets your soul on fire?
Bringing the joy of health and fitness to people's lives, and helping people transform their lives.
Perfect. Now, I just want to expound on that quickly. When you talk about kind of the transformation thing, what does that entail? Are we going back to the whole kind of the mind, body, spirit thing? What is that transformation that you want to instill or create or help people step into in their personal lives?
That's an excellent question, because here's the thing: we're all always transforming.
Right.
So I want to help people who are continually staying. So yes, we're all transforming all the time if we choose to.
Right.
So
for sure.
That's the thing is I want to help people in whatever transformation they need to move through in that point of their life. I want to help them propel and move forward into it.
Beautiful. Cool. All right. So I just want to give you an opportunity right now, Rachel. If somebody wants to reach out to you, if somebody wants to kind of follow along your journey, wants to find out more about the fitness festival and things like that, where can people find you and contact you?
Yeah, so you can go to rachelpastor.com
Okay.
and find out a lot of information there, as well as for the event, fitnessfestivalevents.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, so Rachel, I just want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for having me into your home and things like that. And I really want to thank you for, again, your authenticity and just being open, real, transparent, and kind of putting things out there. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. So listeners, I just want to thank you again so much for tuning into the 127 Fit podcast with Rachel and myself. If you guys want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at 127 Fitness. My personal Instagram is at QVars, Facebook at Quentin Vars. And if you guys would do a huge favor for me and leave a 5-star rating and review when you get done listening to this, that would be great. Also, subscribe to the podcast. That is very helpful as well. If you think you would be a great guest, or if you have a friend or acquaintance that you think would be a great guest or guest, just send me an email or give this email to that friend or acquaintance. The email is 127fit@gmail.com. And as you guys listen to the podcast and you're finding value in the guests that I'm bringing on, which I know you are, if you would just do me a huge favor again and share that specific episode or episodes on your Facebook and Instagram stories, that would be cool. And then just use the hashtag #BeSomeoneToFollow. Again, that just allows more people to listen, and that allows more people to get positively impacted through the stories that are shared on the 127 Fit podcast. And then per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, "If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small." This time until next time, I will catch you guys later.